Hello, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to do the Q&A part 2. I answered the first 10 questions, which was the Q&A part 1 in the previous video, and I'll link that in the description box below if you want to go watch that first. But this is the remaining 20 questions. Let's go. The 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th and 15th question are all about having another baby. Do you think you will have any more children? Have you got any embryos frozen since your IVF journey? How long can you have them for? Are you hoping to have any more children in the future? Would you consider having another baby? If yes, when and how many? Yes, we do want more children. We would love to have 2 children in total, so 1 more. If you don't know, we had IVF with Freya. We've got 3 more embryos frozen. One is a grade A, which is what Freya was, and that means like excellent quality. And then we've also got 2 grade C's. They're like fair to poor quality. So I think when we do IVF again for our second baby, we are going to ask for 2 embryos to be transferred. The grade A, which we know is excellent quality anyway, and 1 of the grade C's, whichever one is the best out of the 2. And the reason we want 2 embryos transferred is because 1, we're going to be paying, it's going to be about 3.5 grand. So we definitely want to maximize our chances of having a successful pregnancy. And 2, whatever is left is going to be thrown away because we've only got the storage covered by the NHS funding until like September 2027 next year. So we wouldn't have time to use any more unless we paid for more storage, which we probably can't afford, but we don't really want to either. Once we've had a second baby, we don't want any more anyway. I think ethically, I would just feel better throwing away 1 than throwing away 2. Obviously, I said we only want 1 more baby. If both of the embryos stuck and we did end up with twins, it is what it is. We're just going to have to deal with that. If they both stuck and the A also split, so we ended up with triplets, again, it is what it is. What are we going to do about it? Like, we're just going to have to deal with it. But ideally, we would only want 1 more baby. We have had a conversation about when we would like another baby, what kind of age gap we wanted between Freya and the next baby, her sibling. James and his sister have a 5-year age gap, so he's 31 and she is 36. I have a 5-year age gap between me and my brother, 31 and 24 this year. Massive, massive age gaps, to be honest. I would really, really love a 2-year age gap, and James has agreed that he would really, really love a 2-year age gap as well. But in order to have a 2-year age gap, it would mean I need to be pregnant this year so that we can have a baby born next year, ready for when Freya turns 2 in May next year. The 16th and 17th questions are you going to any baby classes? Are you still getting out and about with Freya during the week? Where are your faves? No, I'm not going to any baby classes, and I only ever went to 1 baby class. I wanted to get out and about with Freya during the week. It was something that I kind of planned, like, yeah, on maternity leave, I'm going to do this day and this day. We'll do park and soft play, blah, 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 blah. Nope, didn't do it for many reasons. The main reason being that I was in debt, and then as soon as I was debt free, I was then on statutory maternity pay. I basically never have money. James chose a broke ass bitch to be with, let's be real. I do not ever have money. Unfortunately, no, I haven't been getting out and about with Freya. I regret it. I massively regret not doing more during maternity. Question 18, how is your belly/scar after the C-section? My belly/scar after the C-section is absolutely perfect. The incision healed with no issues whatsoever. I am happy to show you the scar. Hopefully I'm not going to have the video taken down for this. I've got to kind of stretch my fat up here and not show too much. This is my C-section scar. The incision healed perfectly. I had no issues whatsoever. That's what the scar looks like now, 9 months postpartum. The 19th question is, are you having time on your own and date days/nights with James since Freya was born? In the last 9 months, I have only had 4 days to myself where Freya has gone with her auntie for the day. As for me and James having any sort of date days and date nights, once in 9 months, where we went to the cinema for a few hours and his sister babysat Freya. The 20th, 21st and 22nd questions are, okay, let's start with question 20. What's been your favourite stage so far since Freya was born? The newborn stage. Those first few months were bliss. I didn't even care about waking up during the night. The only thing that James regrets is only having 2 weeks off work. He wishes that he'd have just taken a whole month and had more time to sort of bond with her and just be here with her. I loved the newborn stage. I could do it again and again. Question 21, what's been the best, worst, hardest part of motherhood so far? The best part of motherhood has been watching her development progress and reaching the milestones. That's probably a really obvious answer, isn't it? But it is the genuine truth. Watching her go from not liking tummy time to always being on her tummy, to rolling over, sitting up, but having to lean against something, and then all of a sudden by like Christmas Eve, she was just sat up on her own. It was like a miracle timing. Just by Christmas, she was able to sit up. And now she's pulling herself up to stand, she's taking steps. The worst part of motherhood for me has been from 4 months old to 7 months old. There was just so much change happening in such a short period of time. She was sleeping less, so she was awake more and she needed more entertainment. Developmentally, there was a big change in what she had achieved at the time. Then she started weaning. There was so much change between 4 months old and 7 months old, and that was when my mental health deteriorated. As soon as she got to 7 months old and it all calmed down a bit, she got into a routine. I was then able to adapt my own routine to match hers and to fit around her. That's when my mental health actually calmed down. And also currently the body image and my eating habits, which I've already mentioned in this video. The hardest part of motherhood so far has been emotional regulation. There are so many times where I feel like I'm about to lose my shit. She's having a little tantrum because she finished her yogurt, or I told her no and she's whinging about it. I need her to sleep and she's so tired. Eyebrows are red, she's pulling her hair. That's what she does when she's tired. She's so tired, but she's just stood up in the cot. And I'm like, lay down, go to sleep. Like, what are you doing? And then I lay her down and then she's crying again. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have a breakdown. Question 22 is, up to this point, what stage was hardest for you? Pregnancy, newborn, 3 month sleep regression, teething, etc. Pregnancy, loved it. Newborn, loved it. 3 month sleep regression, didn't have it. Teething, she has 3 teeth, 3 down at the bottom, and we never even had to give her a teething ring. I found teething fine. For me, I've already said this, but it was from 4 months old to 7 months old. When there was so much change going on, that's the hardest stage for me. Questions 23, 24, 25 and 26 are all about going back to work. When do you go back to work? How are you feeling about that? Do you want to go back to work? How are you feeling about returning to work? How are you finding maternity leave overall? What are you enjoying most about being on maternity leave? Are you excited to return to work or want to stay on maternity leave longer? Are you returning full-time, part-time? What's the arrangement? I am going back to work in April, but I'm going back at the beginning and she's not starting nursery until the end because they couldn't have her earlier. So there's 8 days where James has got to take annual leave from work so that there is actually somebody to look after her while I'm at work for those days. And that will be the first times that James is ever having a day with Freya on his own, and he's got to do 8 of them. I was going to be going back part-time but 4 days a week. However, unfortunately, I haven't been able to find childcare for a Friday because I don't want to put her in nursery a 4th day. I feel like 3 days a week is enough. I feel like 3 days a week for an 11-month-old who has 0 clue what is going on is more than enough. Plus, it would be expensive to do a 4th day at nursery. Nannies are ridiculously expensive and you have to register with HMRC as an employer. You have to do contracts and pay slips. And the only nanny I found that wasn't charging £16 to £19 an hour, because that's what it is in the Oxfordshire area, I found a nanny that was 19 years old. She was only charging £15 an hour. She sent me an example of a contract because she already did nannying Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays for another family, and she sent me the contract as an example, but she didn't redact any of the information out. So I knew what their home address was, the names and ages of their children, what school the oldest child went to, what time the school gates shut, what after school clubs that older child goes to. And when I told James, he was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Childminders in this area just don't seem to work on Fridays. We thought James's mum might have been able to have Fridays off, but I don't even know how to explain it, so it's a long story. I'm not going to go there, but basically she can't, and she doesn't know when she can. So unfortunately, I've had to drop down to 3 days a week. My manager did give me another option. He said, well, why don't you still do 4 days a week, but your 4th day is on a weekend? I was so appreciative. I didn't even realise that was going to be an alternative option because our job is normally Monday to Friday. So I was very, very appreciative of that offer. I thought that was so kind, so generous, very, very flexible. However, James is only off work on a Saturday and a Sunday. That's our only time to be together as a family. And I didn't want to knock those 2 days as a family down to just 1. I want to be more present with Freya, and I don't want work to ever be a priority over my daughter. As soon as she goes to school, she's in education 5 days a week. I don't get the chance to actually be at home with her during the week because education is full time. I'm only going to be going back to work 3 days a week now. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. Thursdays I'm going to be at home, which I always was going to be at home on a Thursday anyway. So that was going to be our day to go soft play, go to the zoo, or just do something fun. Fridays I'm now going to have to be home as well, but I want to try and make that day either just a chill day at home or a day to go and see my family, because my family are not local. They're like a 40-minute drive away and my mum doesn't drive. So it could be a day that I go and see her maybe every other week. I don't want her to have a lot of days where it's all fun, because then she'll always expect it and she might not appreciate it as much. And then obviously weekends I won't be working and James won't be either, so that'll be our time together as a family. I am looking forward to going back to work because I'm looking forward to having adult conversations, but I'm also looking forward to being able to mentally recharge so that I have more time and energy to put into her. I have enjoyed maternity leave. I've definitely enjoyed being paid, even though I haven't been working, even if it is statutory maternity pay, which is absolutely shite. But it's still been great to get money, even though I'm not working. And where I work, I actually get 6 months full pay. I was in debt at the time, so I didn't actually see any money. And then when I was debt free, I then dropped to statutory maternity pay. But at least when I have another baby, my 6 months full pay will actually be like, I won't have any debt to pay, do you know what I mean? Questions 27, 28, 29. How are you feeling about Freya starting nursery? Is Freya going to nursery? If so, how many days? How did you go about picking the right nursery for Freya? Is it expensive sending kids to nursery in the UK? Is it expensive? Yes and no. Freya's going to be going to nursery 3 days a week. And if there was absolutely no funding from the government whatsoever, those 3 days would have cost us £1,200 a month. It would be my whole wage. But there is now the 30 hours free funding for after they turn 9 months old, the term after they turn 9 months old. So when Freya starts nursery, she will have the 30 hours free funding. However, the 30 hours are for term time only, and she's going to be at nursery all year round. So they've got to stretch it over the year. There is then the tax-free childcare, which is every time you put £8 into the pot, the government tops it up £2. So if you put £80 in the pot, the government tops it up by 20 quid. The 30 hours free funding, at least for the nursery Freya's going to be going to, I don't know about any other nurseries, but the nursery Freya's going to go to, it only covers her space. So it doesn't cover the food, nappies, wipes, sun cream. We still have to pay for that. So her fee is going to be over £600 a month still. Freya is going to be going to nursery in April. She will be doing 3 days a week when I am in the office for work. I am looking forward to her starting nursery. I just feel bad because she is going to have zero clue what is going on. She is just going to be in a room with all these adults, all these children, and it's great. She'll be socialising. She gets to do some parallel play with babies, and then eventually she'll actually play with the babies, and she'll just make friends, and she'll be doing all these activities and things based on her learning as well. And I used to work in childcare for 5 years. I'm qualified as well. I've got qualifications in childcare, so I do know how it all works in a nursery. I do just hope that she is going to adapt very, very well, and that she's going to enjoy nursery. In terms of how did you go about picking the right nursery for Freya, we researched the nurseries that were going to be near to where I work. There were 4 that we decided to view. The first 2 were actually a Busy Bees nursery, and I booked a viewing at the one that was kind of new. It was all modern and laminate flooring and nice bright walls, but I ended up booking the wrong one, so I went to the other Busy Bees, and that was the first nursery that I visited. I turned up, and just looking on the outside, I immediately knew no. I went in, and as soon as I told the guy that was showing us around that I used to work in childcare, he went all red and he started stumbling over his words. He wasn't confident in what he was saying at all. The rooms were tiny, and when we went into the rooms, there was one member of staff. She was holding a baby, feeding the baby, and then with her foot she was rocking another baby in a bouncer. And all the other staff, I was looking at them like, what are they doing? Like, they're not even helping her. It was actually ridiculous. And then we went into the garden area, and he was like, oh, when it's raining they don't go outside. When I worked in childcare, we took them out in the rain. They had waterproof coats or all-in-ones. They were always warm, but we took them out, even if it was just a little bit of rain, and he said they didn't. And I was looking at the size of the rooms like, but you're just going to keep them indoors all day. I walked out of there, and James said no. And I went, yeah, absolutely not. We then booked a viewing at a second nursery, which was also Busy Bees. It was the one I was supposed to book at, and it was beautiful. It wasn't long sort of opened up. It was wood flooring, bright walls. It was very, very busy. There were children everywhere. Like, it was very, very busy. They were so busy, bearing in mind I was pregnant. Freya wasn't even born, so this was 2024. They couldn't take her until June or July this year. We then viewed a third nursery. When I went to view it, she was the assistant manager, deputy manager. We walked into the baby room. It was the first room. It was the one that Freya would be in. She asked me when I was due, and I said, oh, my baby's due in June 2025, a girl. She said, oh, lovely. 5 minutes later, I'm not even joking you, 5 minutes later, she said, so does your little one have any allergies or anything? I was like, I'm pregnant. She's not born yet. She went, oh yeah. So you weren't listening to me, basically. And then the fourth nursery that I viewed was the one that I actually ended up going for, and it wasn't modern. It didn't have wooden flooring and brightly coloured walls, but it also wasn't grubby like the first one either. Our first choice of nursery, that one that I said was all wooden flooring and beautiful, I am so glad we didn't go for that nursery now. I am so glad that they couldn't have had her earlier, because when I, not long ago, recently checked an Ofsted report, because they had an Ofsted inspection recently, they got inadequate. Really, really happy with the one we've gone for. I used to work in childcare for 5 years. I'm qualified. I've already said this, I know, but it does mean that I know what I'm looking for. If you want some things to look out for, Ofsted reports. Make sure you're actually checking when their last Ofsted inspection was, when their Ofsted inspection was before that, or if they haven't had one recently, when is it due? Read the reports. Was it outstanding? Was it good? It is hard for a nursery to get rated outstanding, but good is fine. There is nothing wrong with good. It's only like the room for improvement or inadequates that are an issue. Parent reviews. I literally Googled the nursery. I Googled it on Facebook to see if there was any like Facebook pages talking about it. I did not find one bad thing about the nursery. You can ask them how they recruit their staff. Are they DBS checked? Which the answer should be yes, they all are before they even start, before they're even left alone with the children. They cannot even change a nappy if they do not have a DBS check. References, do they actually check the references? Do they go and do safeguarding training? These are the things you want to know. Qualifications, you could even ask, like, are all of the staff qualified? So the nursery Freya's going to, the majority of them have level 3 qualifications, and any that only have a level 2 are put onto level 3 qualification training. Cameras in the room. The nursery that Freya is going to has got cameras in the room. So if anything was to go wrong, like if there was an accident, an incident, if there was an allegation, if Freya made an allegation to us, like disclosed something to us that we had to get investigated, there are cameras in the room. The only place there is no camera is in the room that they change the nappies, and that's for obvious reasons. But other than that, there are cameras in all of the other rooms. And then lastly, I put the vibe. It sounds so ridiculous, but you will get a vibe. The last thing I wrote down, and this isn't about picking a nursery, this is when you're already in a nursery and they take them out, like if they take them to libraries and stuff. Make sure you're informed about every planned visit, even if it's a park, the library. Make sure you are always informed about every planned visit in advance. When I viewed the nursery that Freya's going to, when we got to the preschool room where they're like 3 to 4, they said that sometimes they go to the park, sometimes they go to the nursery, they get the local firemen with their fire engine and they get to listen to the siren. I was like, that is perfect. That is so cool. They then told me that sometimes they go to a residential care home with old people and they get to read books with the old people. No, absolutely not. That is not happening. Freya is not doing that. The reason why that will not be happening is because I want to know if the residents in that care home, so the elderly people that are in that care home, are they DBS checked? The staff would be, but are residents checked as well? Can you absolutely guarantee me that every elderly person, every elderly resident in that care home that's going to have access to my child is DBS checked? Regardless of whether the answer is yes or no, I do not want my daughter sat on a stranger's lap. And let's be real, they're not going to be able to get down on their hands and knees with our babies, are they? With our children. The 30th final question is, how are you getting on mentally now? Do you think having a diagnosis helped process it? Does the medication help you? You sharing your story made me seek help too. That is exactly why I shared my mental health issues postpartum with you all, because although some people might have thought, wow, TMI, she is so open, too open, she shares so much. This is why I do it, so that somebody, even if it's just one person, can say to me, your story made me seek help too. That means absolutely everything to me, and that is exactly why I share so much about myself. Freya is 9 months old, and in the last 2 months, since she was 7 months old, my mental health has gone back to normal. I have gone back to how I was before pregnancy and during pregnancy and when Freya was a newborn. I am back to my normal self, so I am going to be discharging myself from the perinatal mental health team. I did get prescribed medication, but I didn't like how it made me feel, and they couldn't give me anything else because that was actually the lowest dosage. And the therapy, I've been on a waiting list for the last few months, and as soon as Freya turns 1 in May, they will have to discharge me from their service. I think Complex Needs were going to put me on their waiting list, but I don't feel like I actually need the help now. I do still struggle with emotional regulation sometimes, maybe like once a day, twice max, but definitely not like before. That was something. So my mental health is definitely better now. I'm back to normal, my normal. Having a diagnosis definitely helped process it, but it was more because I knew what I had. I'm not a psychiatrist. I couldn't diagnose myself. It was good to be able to finally have an assessment with a psychologist who was actually happy to give me a diagnosis in writing and put it on paper and give it to my GP. Like, it's all official now. Not everybody wants a label, but I wanted a label and I do better with it. No, the medication didn't help me. I know I've already said this. They did prescribe me with quetiapine. The maximum dosage was like 800 milligrams and they put me on 25, which was the lowest dose you could get. You're meant to have taken it when you're at like the point where you're like, I am going to lose my shit. You take it and then it lasts for like 2 hours. It just sort of makes you calm and sleepy. I took it for the first time when James was home because I wanted to make sure it didn't make me so sleepy that it wasn't safe with Freya, and I didn't like how it made me feel. I was getting her dressed for bed and it was like everything I did was in slow motion. Everything was taking double the length of time. Even picking her up, I felt weak. I didn't even feel like it was my strength. And I was like, I am not happy taking this. So I said to my key worker, I was like, I'm not comfortable taking this medication, and because there was no other lower dosage, there was nothing else they could actually prescribe me. That is the end of the Q&A. That's the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.